What is something illegal you have done and got away without getting caught? I stole my own car from the tow impound lot. Best part was getting the certified letter months later that they were going to auction it if I didn't come and pay for it. When I went backpacking through Europe, I bought an airsoft pistol in Italy. A replica Beretta 92 FS, nickel plated. It looked real. It was heavy. I could have pointed it at you and you would think it was real. Because I am a ducking idiot, I decided to bring it home to Canada with me. I packed it in my checked baggage, big backpack, and did not think anything of it until I arrived back in Toronto and was asked to put my bag in the X-ray machine at customs. At this point I realized, holy duck, I am bringing a gun into the Ontario. Replica handguns are completely illegal. I would have been in a hitload of trouble, and I started to panic. Lucky me, I remembered exactly how I had packed the pistol, so when I laid the bag on the conveyor belt, I laid it down so that the X-ray welder would see the profile of the pistol. When the bag went through the machine, you could clearly see the gun, but it was at an angle facing away, so rather than a pistol shape, it was just a metal rectangle. The inspection agent / guy / whatever stopped the belt, pointed directly at the chunk of metal, and said it is that. I looked him dead in the eye and said it is a toyo. The next few seconds felt like an eternity. I could feel my pulse pounding in my neck. I was terrified, but then he just said welcome home and let me go. I retrieved my bag, walked into the main terminal, then went and threw up in the nearest garbage can. Yay, I was dumb, but I got away with it. Edit. I have been informed that these airsoft pistols are not, in fact, illegal. My entire life is a sham. The summer after I graduated high school, my best friend and I bought season P-Buds to Six Flags and decided to go every day because it was only an hour plus away. A week or two into our summer, Six Flags introduced their fast butts. We immediately bought them, jumped the line and were hooked. This was going to be the best summer of our lives, but the fast P-Buds were like $20 each, which adds up if you're going every day. Luckily for us, the stupid idiots printed them on business cards and punched out a hole when you rode. So we just printed our own at home on my friend's dad's super nice printer and rode the hit out of every ride we could. We started making friends with the ride operators, and they'd start telling us what color the ink would be the next week, so we could stay ahead of the law and the suckers in line. After 2 months or so, they started printing them on plastic, but I worked at a plastic factory that used plastic sheeting that was the same thickness, and we were still able to print them if I cut the sheets down to size. We got to ride the rest of the summer out in style, but the next year they introduced the Tamagotchi looking fast P-Butts, and I knew that I'd been beaten. It was the best summer of my life, and it was really thrilling to feel like I was getting away with something that was technically illegal, but also was a completely victimless crime. Stole a Blue Angels flag from the hangar they were parked in. When I was in the Navy, the Blue Angels visited the air base I was stationed at. They proceeded to kick all of our planes out of our hangar, and I had to fix our birds out in the rain. In a fit of contempt, on the last day they were there, I went into the mess and stole the flag hanging from the overhead beams. I still have the flag and wear it like a cape from time to time. I once overslept for an oral English exam, so I forged the letter I received with a date and moved it to following week. Showed it to my English teacher, and she said it was probably a mistake, but I had to show it to the school dean as well to get approval for a reschedule. I showed the forged letter to him and he instantly found a mistake I made in the letter and just casually said that the letter looked badly copied. I was sweating bullets at that point because forging a letter for an exam is a pretty harsh offense and could have gotten me suspended. But he just shrugged it off and gave me permission for a reschedule. I guess since I wasn't a troublemaker he just gave me a P-Butt. The dean was one of the cooler teachers at school though. He loved SpongeBob, and if he gave you detention work, you had to make a SpongeBob figure with a sponge and such. My friends and I did not pay for our dinner at Steak and Shake this past weekend. I stood waiting at the register trying to pay for 20 minutes but no one came to take my money. It was 12:30 AM before we left. I am just here looking for the comment that says murder. I was visiting the beach, and when walking home with a friend from a bar at 4 AM on a Sunday night, we came across a jet ski on the beach, being bounced around by the waves. My friend convinced me to ride it back with him the next mile to where we were staying. So we rode it in the ocean in pitch black, while a storm was out in the distance. Cool, not scary. When we got to our place, we rode it around until the sun came up, and then I found the jet ski registration, found the guy on Facebook, played the good guy, and messaged him, and told him, hey, I found your jet ski at X location on the beach, then went inside. It was a pretty thrilling experience. I don't know how illegal it was considering it was a jet ski just left in the ocean, and I returned it, but it was still pretty fun. Edit, wow, this blew up D. Edit 2, so I left out the part where I tried to start the jet ski, but it didn't start. It was pretty stressful, because the waves were pretty big, and I wasn't wearing swimming clothing. So when it didn't start, we walked a mile to a gas station, and filled a Gatorade bottle with gas, got an Uber back to the jet ski, filled the jet ski with gas, and it still didn't start. I then realized the Qt-off switch was set to off instead of on, and I should have checked this, because I have my own jet ski, but I forgot to check it, thanks alcohol. So we wasted way too much time getting gas. But interested in semi-stealing a car. Almost 2 decades ago my cousin calls my dad, and says his car broke down. As my dad has friends with heavy equipment, he figured my dad could get a trailer to tow it on. So my dad, my uncle and I go pick up a flatbed tow truck from a friend of his and drive 2 hours to pick up the car. We find it near where it should be on the side of the highway, so we load it up and go to a rest stop to secure it on the truck better. As my dad and my uncle are attaching straps, I'm looking at the car and notice something is odd. My cousin's car, late 80s Audi, had broken speakers for whatever reason. They all stopped work, so instead of replacing them with normal speakers, he used house tower speakers, big ones at that back seat and P-button seat. I'm noticing there aren't any tower speakers in the car. I pointed this out, and they stop and start looking at the car, then check the plate number. They don't match. Cousin had a vanity plate. My dad immediately hooks the call, raises the bed, and lets it roll off into a space at the rest area. We hop into the truck and drive off to find the car. We find it less than a mile away. Audi reliability jokes aside, what are the odds of 2 identical orders, same year, color, and even rims and tires being broken down that close to each other? I brought 2 or 3 Cuban cigars back to the US from Montreal once. When we cleared the border, I turned to my parents and used my favorite line from Futurama. Guess what your accessories to? Question mark. Edit, it was 2004. I'm well aware this is no longer illegal. When I was a teenager, my Labrador got out of the yard, and I finally found him at the pound with a bullet in his shoulder. I had to put him down. I inadvertently found out who did it. I spray painted his Corvette. After he got it repainted, I did it again. Editing for clarity. This was a small town in the late 70s. I did tell the cops when he was shot, but we didn't know by who. They said they could do nothing. As far as I remember, even when I found out who did it, they said they couldn't help me. I found out who did it because my sister went to a party and a guy there was talking about a dog he shot. He lived in the same block where animal control picked my injured dog up. Of course I took my dog to the vet, but as a poor 16-year-old, I did not have the funds needed for surgery. If I recall correctly, it was $400, which would have been a small fortune for me. I had the vet put him down. He was a sweet lab. I bawled my eyes out for weeks. One of the local cops was a family friend. He put 2 and 2 together, and after the second paint job, he stopped by my work and mentioned what happened to this guy's car and looked at me and said he hoped it wouldn't happen again. I took the hint and left him alone after that. This all happened over 40 years ago, but to the best of my recollection, that is what happened. I visited a abandoned building. Someone called the police and 30 minutes later we saw firefighters walking into the huge building just to search us. Luckily we saw it when we were already out. I went into CVS for 3 things: deodorant, the specific pencils I like to use, and a notebook. I grabbed the deodorant, perused the office supply aisle, and saw they didn't have the pencils I wanted, so I decided it wasn't worth it to get the notebook either. Feeling like my trip was a failure, I left. Walked out of CVS with the deodorant in my hand. No alarm went off, no employee stopped me. About 3 steps outside of the door, I realized I just stole, however unintentionally. So I walked back in, bought the deodorant and 3 other items out of guilt. Please subscribe to Reddit Throne. Please subscribe to Reddit Throne.